Right now, the entire crypto market is watching Washington like never before, because what happens next with the Clarity Act could completely reshape the future of XRP, stablecoins, crypto regulations, and even the relationship between banks and digital assets across America. Over the last few hours, something very unusual happened behind the scenes. Prediction markets suddenly crashed from strong confidence levels down to much lower odds within minutes. And whenever moves like that happen, experienced investors immediately start asking one important question. Does somebody know something the public does not know yet? The pressure around this legislation is now reaching extreme levels, and there are powerful groups fighting on both sides. Some want this bill passed immediately because they believe it will finally give crypto companies clear legal rules. Others are trying everything possible to slow it down before it reaches the Senate floor. And for XRP holders, this matters more than most people realize because regulatory clarity has always been one of the biggest missing pieces holding XRP back from reaching its full potential. Welcome back to XRP Gold Silver Scope, where we break down the biggest XRP developments, crypto regulations, market structure updates, and everything shaping the future of digital assets in simple and easy English. Today's update is extremely important because the Clarity Act is entering one of its most critical moments yet. Senators are preparing for what is called a markup session, and this is where major decisions happen behind closed doors. During these sessions, lawmakers debate the bill, propose amendments, negotiate final wording, and eventually decide whether the legislation moves forward or dies completely. This is not just another political meeting. This is the stage where the future direction of crypto regulation in America could begin taking final shape. Now here is where things become very interesting. Reports coming from people close to the negotiations suggest that the stablecoin battle has become one of the biggest pressure points inside the legislation. Traditional banking groups are extremely worried that stablecoins offering rewards or yield programs could pull billions of dollars away from regular bank deposits. Think about it from the bank's perspective for a moment. If average people can hold stablecoins on crypto platforms and earn better returns than traditional savings accounts, then banks risk losing massive amounts of customer money. That is exactly why several banking associations are aggressively lobbying senators right now. They are contacting lawmakers, encouraging bank executives to pressure Congress, and pushing hard to rewrite parts of the legislation before it advances further. But crypto industry leaders are pushing back just as hard. Supporters of the Clarity Act argue that America has already fallen behind because lawmakers delayed crypto regulation for too long. They believe the United States now risks losing innovation, blockchain development, investment capital, and global leadership if clear crypto rules are not passed soon. Many industry insiders also believe banks are less concerned about consumer protection and more concerned about competition. That is why this fight has become so intense. It is not just about regulation anymore. It is about who controls the future financial system. Meanwhile, several senators are now becoming key figures in this entire process. Some lawmakers appear strongly supportive of moving the bill forward, while others continue raising concerns about ethics, conflicts of interest, and decentralized finance provisions. Even though Republicans may have enough support to advance the bill out of committee, the bigger question is what happens afterward when the legislation reaches the full Senate floor. Because at that stage, bipartisan support becomes much more important. Without enough Democrats crossing over to support the bill, the path ahead becomes significantly more difficult. And this is exactly why investors are watching every small signal right now. Even tiny comments from senators, banking groups, crypto executives, or White House insiders can shift expectations instantly. That sudden drop in prediction market confidence earlier today shows just how nervous traders are becoming. Markets move quickly whenever uncertainty appears, especially when billions of dollars are connected to future regulation. At the same time, there are also signs that important compromises may already be happening behind the scenes. Several industry sources suggest that disagreements around DeFi regulations and software developer protections are getting closer to resolution. That could remove major obstacles that previously threatened to slow the legislation down. Some lawmakers are now signaling that law enforcement protections and anti-money laundering concerns may already be addressed well enough for the bill to continue moving forward. For XRP holders specifically, this entire situation carries enormous importance because XRP has spent years trapped inside regulatory uncertainty. Ever since legal battles and enforcement actions created confusion across the crypto market, institutional investors have remained cautious. Large financial firms usually avoid assets that exist inside unclear legal environments. But if America finally creates proper crypto market structure legislation, many analysts believe it could open the door for greater institutional adoption, clearer exchange rules, expanded banking integration, and potentially much stronger demand for established utility-focused assets like XRP. And remember, XRP has always been positioned differently from many speculative crypto projects. XRP focuses heavily on payments, liquidity movement, cross-border settlement, and financial infrastructure. That means if lawmakers eventually define how digital assets can legally operate within the U.S. financial system, XRP could become one of the biggest beneficiaries of that clarity. This is why the crypto community is paying such close attention to every development surrounding the Clarity Act. At the same time, political pressure is growing rapidly. Public opinion surveys now show that many voters believe America should already have crypto regulations in place by now. Supporters argue that innovation cannot continue operating inside uncertainty forever. Businesses need rules. Investors need protection. Developers need legal guidance. And institutions need confidence before fully entering the market. The longer lawmakers delay, the more pressure builds from both the crypto industry and the public itself. But despite all the optimism, risks still remain. If political divisions become too strong, if banking pressure intensifies further, or if ethics concerns dominate the conversation, the legislation could still face major delays. That is why the next few days may become absolutely critical for the future direction of crypto policy in America. The committee discussions happening right now could determine whether the Clarity Act gains momentum or faces another major setback. And if setbacks happen, markets will react immediately. One thing is becoming very clear, though. Crypto is no longer sitting on the sidelines of American politics. The industry has grown too large, too influential, and too connected to the future financial system for lawmakers to ignore it any longer. Whether politicians fully support crypto or strongly oppose it, they now understand that digital assets are becoming part of the global financial conversation permanently. And that reality is exactly why this legislation matters so much right now. As negotiations continue behind closed doors, one of the biggest stories developing right now is the growing battle between the traditional banking system and the crypto industry itself. This is no longer just a disagreement about regulations or technical legal language. What we are witnessing now is a direct fight over who controls the future flow of money in the digital economy. On one side, crypto companies and blockchain advocates believe stablecoins, decentralized finance, and digital assets can modernize the financial system, increase efficiency, reduce payment costs, and give ordinary people more control over their money. On the other side, many banking organizations fear that these technologies could weaken the traditional banking model that has dominated for decades. That fear became extremely visible after major banking groups started aggressively contacting senators ahead of the Clarity Act discussions. According to multiple reports, banking associations are warning lawmakers that stablecoins offering rewards or yield opportunities could encourage customers to move money away from bank savings accounts. And from the bank's perspective, that creates a serious threat. Banks rely heavily on customer deposits because those deposits help support lending, investments, and broader financial operations across the economy. If billions of dollars begin shifting into blockchain-based financial products instead, the traditional system could lose a major source of stability and profit. But crypto supporters are responding with a very different argument. They believe consumers deserve better financial opportunities and more competition. Many people across America are frustrated with extremely low savings account returns, while inflation continues eating away purchasing power. Crypto advocates argue that blockchain technology can create more efficient financial tools, faster transactions, and higher yield opportunities that traditional banks simply do not want to compete against. That is why this fight has become so emotional and politically charged. It is not just about technology anymore. It is about economic control, financial power, and the future structure of global finance. Now, inside the Senate discussions themselves, several important political dynamics are also unfolding. Republicans appear mostly united around advancing the Clarity Act forward, arguing that America urgently needs a comprehensive digital asset framework before innovation leaves the country entirely. Many lawmakers supporting the bill believe the United States cannot afford to fall behind regions that are already creating crypto-friendly regulations. They argue that if companies continue facing uncertainty in America, developers and investment capital may simply move to countries with clearer rules. At the same time, Democrats remain divided. Some are open to supporting the legislation, but want stronger ethics rules, tighter protections, and clearer safeguards regarding conflicts of interest. Others remain far more skeptical and worry the bill may still leave dangerous loopholes inside the financial system. This internal divide is creating uncertainty because bipartisan support could ultimately determine whether the legislation succeeds once it reaches the full Senate floor. Committee approval alone is not enough. The real battle begins when senators across the entire chamber must vote. One major issue attracting attention involves decentralized finance, often called DeFi. Some lawmakers and law enforcement groups worry certain DeFi structures could allow illegal financial activity if regulations are too weak. Others argue that over-regulating developers would crush innovation and punish software creators unfairly. Behind the scenes, negotiations have reportedly focused on finding middle ground between those concerns. Several sources now suggest progress is being made, especially regarding protections for software developers who are not directly involved in illegal activity themselves. And this is where momentum may start shifting back toward the crypto industry. Some influential lawmakers appear increasingly confident that enough compromises have already been reached to keep the Clarity Act moving forward. Supporters believe recent adjustments to the legislation may satisfy enough concerns to avoid another collapse in negotiations. That optimism is important because earlier versions of crypto legislation faced major resistance and delays after industry leaders publicly criticized certain provisions. Now, however, several large crypto figures appear more comfortable supporting the updated framework. At the same time, public messaging around crypto is changing dramatically in Washington. Only a few years ago, many politicians treated digital assets mainly as risky speculation or temporary internet trends. But today, conversations inside government are becoming much broader. Officials are now discussing blockchain infrastructure, digital payments, national competitiveness, strategic reserves, financial modernization, and even national security implications connected to crypto assets. That shift is extremely important because it shows how seriously policymakers are beginning to view this industry. Some political figures are now openly arguing that digital assets could become part of America's long-term financial strategy. similar to how countries historically viewed gold reserves or currency dominance. These discussions are still developing, but they show how quickly crypto is moving from the edges of finance toward mainstream policy conversations. And for XRP supporters, that matters because XRP has long positioned itself as a utility-focused asset designed for real-world financial integration rather than pure speculation alone. Another major factor helping crypto right now is public opinion. Surveys show many Americans believe lawmakers waited too long to establish crypto rules. Large numbers of voters now support some form of digital asset regulation because they want clarity, consumer protection, innovation, and legal certainty. That growing public support creates political pressure on Congress. Lawmakers understand that millions of Americans now own crypto directly or indirectly, and many younger voters especially view blockchain technology as part of the future economy. Still, despite the growing optimism, there are major risks that could still disrupt everything. Lobbying pressure from powerful banking groups remains intense. Political disagreements over ethics language continue causing friction. Some senators may still hesitate if they believe the bill moves too quickly or lacks sufficient safeguards. And prediction markets remain highly sensitive because investors understand how fragile legislative negotiations can become at the final stages. This is why every statement, meeting, interview, and rumor suddenly carries enormous weight right now. Investors are searching for clues everywhere. One senator expressing confidence can boost market optimism. One negative report can create panic almost instantly. The speed of information inside crypto markets means sentiment can shift dramatically within minutes, especially during high-stakes political moments like this one. For XRP specifically, the bigger picture remains extremely important. Regulatory clarity could eventually create an environment where financial institutions feel more comfortable integrating blockchain-based payment solutions into mainstream operations. XRP's focus on liquidity, settlement efficiency, and international payment infrastructure positions it differently from purely speculative tokens. If the United States moves toward clearer crypto laws, institutional confidence across the entire sector could improve significantly. And perhaps the most important thing to understand is this. The Clarity Act is not just about one bill. It represents a larger turning point in how America chooses to approach the digital asset industry moving forward. Will the country embrace innovation while building safeguards? Or will political divisions and institutional resistance continue delaying progress? That question is now sitting directly in front of lawmakers, and the answer could shape the crypto market for years to come. Right now, all eyes remain locked on Washington because the decisions being made over the next several days may influence not only XRP, but the future direction of the entire digital asset industry across America. Now, as we move closer to the final stages of this political battle, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. The crypto industry is no longer asking for permission to exist. It is demanding clear rules, equal treatment, and a real place inside the future financial system. And whether lawmakers fully support crypto or not, the pressure to finally create proper regulation is reaching levels we have never seen before. The Clarity Act has now become much bigger than a single piece of legislation. It represents a major test for how America plans to compete in the next era of finance, technology, and global digital infrastructure. What makes this moment especially important for XRP holders is that XRP has spent years trapped in uncertainty, while the broader crypto industry continued evolving around it. Regulatory confusion created hesitation across exchanges, institutions, and financial firms. Many companies simply avoided exposure because nobody wanted to operate inside unclear legal territory. But now, for the first time in a long time, there is growing momentum toward creating a structured framework that could finally define how digital assets legally function inside the United States. And this is exactly why so many investors are watching every single development carefully. If the Clarity Act successfully advances, it could open the door to stronger institutional participation, clearer banking relationships, expanded blockchain adoption, and greater confidence throughout the crypto market. Large financial players typically wait for legal certainty before fully committing capital. They want rules. They want compliance structures. They want clarity. Once those pieces begin falling into place, the entire market environment can start changing very quickly. At the same time, XRP supporters believe the asset is uniquely positioned for a more regulated future because XRP focuses heavily on utility, liquidity movement, and payment efficiency rather than hype alone. That distinction matters. As governments continue discussing stablecoins, cross-border payments, financial infrastructure, and digital settlement systems, projects connected to real-world financial use cases may gain increasing attention. This is one reason many XRP investors remain highly optimistic, despite years of regulatory pressure and market uncertainty. But even with the growing optimism, it is important to stay realistic. Politics is unpredictable. Deals can change overnight. Last-minute amendments can reshape legislation completely. Powerful lobbying groups still remain deeply involved in this process, and not everyone wants crypto to succeed at the same speed. Traditional financial institutions understand that blockchain technology could disrupt long-standing systems that generated enormous profits for decades. That means resistance will not disappear overnight, even if the Clarity Act continues moving forward. Still, the direction of the conversation itself is already changing. Instead of asking whether crypto should exist, lawmakers are now debating how crypto should operate. That is a massive shift from previous years. Digital assets are becoming part of larger discussions involving financial innovation, technological leadership, payment modernization, and even national competitiveness. Governments around the world are racing to position themselves for the future digital economy, and the United States understands it cannot afford to remain uncertain forever, while other countries continue building regulatory frameworks ahead of them. Another major factor helping crypto right now is public participation. Millions of people now own digital assets directly or indirectly. Younger generations especially view blockchain technology as part of the future internet economy. Politicians are beginning to realize that crypto voters are becoming an increasingly important political force. Public surveys continue showing strong support for creating clear crypto laws, and that growing pressure could eventually force lawmakers to move faster than many expected. And honestly, this is why the next few days could become so important. Committee discussions, Senate negotiations, political compromises, banking pressure, industry lobbying, and public opinion are all colliding at the same moment. Every side understands the stakes are enormous. If lawmakers successfully create a workable framework, it could become one of the most significant turning points in crypto history inside the United States. But if negotiations collapse again, uncertainty could continue dragging on much longer. For XRP holders specifically, patience may still remain necessary because regulatory transformation rarely happens instantly. Even after legislation advances, implementation takes time. Agencies must interpret rules. Institutions must adapt systems. Financial companies must evaluate compliance requirements. Markets often react emotionally in the short term before larger long-term effects fully develop. That is why experienced investors usually focus on the bigger picture rather than only daily price action. The bigger picture here is that crypto is steadily moving closer toward mainstream financial integration. Banks are paying attention, governments are paying attention, institutions are paying attention, and blockchain technology continues expanding into areas far beyond simple trading speculation. Whether it involves payments, tokenization, settlements, digital identity, or cross-border finance, the industry is evolving rapidly despite resistance along the way. For XRP, the future conversation may increasingly revolve around utility and infrastructure, rather than courtroom headlines alone. And if America finally moves toward comprehensive crypto regulation, the market could eventually begin valuing projects differently, based on real-world use cases, partnerships, scalability, and institutional compatibility. That environment could potentially benefit assets designed for long-term financial integration. One thing is certain, though. The next chapter for crypto in America is being written right now behind closed doors inside Washington. The decisions lawmakers make during these negotiations may shape the industry for years ahead. That is why staying informed matters more than ever, especially during moments where political decisions can influence the entire market direction almost overnight. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want daily XRP updates, crypto regulation news, market analysis, and major developments explained in simple English, make sure you subscribe to XRP Gold Silver Scope and stay locked in for future updates. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments because this Clarity Act situation is becoming one of the biggest crypto stories of the year, and I want to hear what you think happens next. And finally, quick disclaimer before we wrap up. This video is only for educational and entertainment purposes and should not be considered financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions because crypto markets can be highly volatile and unpredictable.